intro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Center Live. Game Center Live is our weekly streaming show broadcast from NYU Game Center, which is the game design department here at NYU, New York University. Today, we have a lovely show for you today. First hour is The Discourse, as usual, with Naomi Clark and Frank Lantz, where we will go over industry hot topics and the news of the day. And then 1 to 1:30 today, we'll be featuring a puzzle action game called Damaged in Transit with the developers who are also coming from NYU Game Center as well. So we should have a really great show for you today. Please hang out in the chat and let us know how you're feeling. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Naomi and Frank. Take it away.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah, so we thought we'd do something a little different on the discourse today. We've had so much Animal Crossing news in recent weeks that I think it started to break Robert's brain.
No, it's fine. And Animal Crossing is is part of the discourse right now. So
Robert told us no more Animal Crossing.
No,
so that's just
everyone's gonna.
That's an order that's coming down from above. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah, sorry, Animal Crossing fans. The boss said no. No, but really what we wanted to do is slightly different. Instead of just doing all this outward-facing news and commentating on like what's going on in the business and technology worlds that seem to dominate a lot of game news, we thought we'd actually do a little bit of news from inside the Game Center community and all of our friends. In other words, we're just going to plug a bunch of stuff that's come out recently that we're excited about. We haven't gotten to play all or maybe even most of these games. I spent a little time with a couple of them, but they're projects we think you should know about. They deserve shout outs. And since the whole remote streaming thing started, we haven't been doing quite as many segments live with Robert Yang and somebody like students and alumni and friends of the Game Center like we used to before NYU closed down as an in-person location. So we figured, yeah, we can pepper some of that back into the discourse. So let's just jump right into it and look at like what's been coming out of the community around the Game Center and friends of the Game Center lately. I wanted to start with this article from Rock Paper Shotgun. This has a bunch of friends of the Game Center in it, but also two of our faculty. And overall, I think this is just a really lovely idea for an article. They asked a whole bunch of developers, what's the little thing inside of a game that you are most proud of having made? And there's a bunch of answers in here, but like one of the ones I love is Emily Short talking about some quests and storylines she wrote for Fallen London, and she has so much weird stuff she could choose from her works, and she chose this one particular item that you can turn your teeth into a weapon that you can then equip in Fallen London. And then further down, well, yeah, we've got Into the Breach developer from that game, Justin Ma, talking about animations, and then Robert Yang himself, and then followed by Bennett Foddy, and both of them, interestingly enough, maybe this is something that goes with being a teacher, selected things from other people's games. So like Robert actually mentioned something he contributed to Bennett's game, the idea for the chat room, the secret chat room at the end, spoiler, and then Bennett mentions the fact that he named all the rooms in Terry Kavanaugh's game, VVVVVV. A lot of Game Center students watching this probably know that. Maybe we mention it every time we use VVVVVV as a level editor in intermediate game design. But yeah, this is the kind of interviews with developers that I like to see. It's just like, funny little touches, stuff that people put in out of love that they don't necessarily think of as the big revelation or the big idea in the design. Although I will say that it ends with Harvey Smith, another friend of the Game Center. He's like, I'm really proud of that you can have a 100% non-lethal run in Dishonored. And that's too big. I'm sorry, Harvey. That's like the big design idea of Dishonored. And he talks about it all the time. So yeah, I like it when it's like small little things.
Wow. Putting Harvey Smith on blast. Very nice.
Yeah, but no, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing design stroke about Dishonored. It's like the central guiding principle of a lot of the design in Dishonored. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it's not one of these small, like little amazing corners. It's not a curly Q on the design. I don't know,
But
Frank, what do you think? Do you
Naomi,
have one of these that you would pick from your own work?
well, I was going to ask you the same thing. What would you pick?
Well, I would say that to follow in Robert and Bennett's footsteps, I'll say, whatever it was that I said in when I was beta testing Universal Paperclips, that I think led to some ideas related to the ending or some tweaks for the ending.
You may have been the first person outside of my family that I showed that to. Hillary was the first person to play Universal Paperclips.
I'm very
honored. You might have been the second person to play it because I think, in fact, here's the thing you could be really proud of. You're the person who turned me on to Kitten's Game.
Right, Kitten's Game.
One of the big influences for Paperclips. And when I first had the idea of making a clicker, I think I went to you because I knew you were kind of an expert in that genre because you are a degenerate gamer.
Yeah, I'm a complete
Naomi. Naomi is a
complete degen grinder.
I know.
Gamer.
She gives the impression of being a very sophisticated gamer, of like broadly playing lots of different games, deep insight into the historical and cultural context. But in reality, Naomi is a complete degenerate and is like loves nothing more than like sticking her head into the gears of a big machine and letting it grind up her brain. So I asked you, like, what should I play? Like, what's happening in this world? Because I knew that you would have like really like deep insight. And you said play Kitten's Game, and it blew my mind. And it was one of the reasons that I ended up making Paperclips.
Well, I feel proud of that, and I feel we were like talking about the ending at some point. I forget what I said now, but
yeah, you made a lot of key contributions. So thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. So I would cite that sort of like Robert cited for Bennett's Game. But you have one that you would pick?
I don't know. I'm very happy about that level in Junkbot where you have to disassemble a very large Junkbot who's made out of bricks. So you're the little Junkbot, and then there's a big Junkbot in the level made out of bricks, and inside of that there's a trash can.
Yeah, so you have to and it replicates the whole game.
A little nice little postmodern moment. So I'm going to say that level from Junkbot.
Right, that's a really good one. Excellent choice.
Yeah, which is another collaboration, another
collaboration. I also worked on that. Good point.
You were my boss.
Okay, let's get on to actual games that have come out sometime in the last 20 years. Okay, what's next?
Junkbot is surprisingly
it holds up. Just so you guys know, Junkbot is coming out again. Like it's being re-released by a fan. Speaking of Robert Yang, you should check out this series of articles. There are 2 articles that Robert's written about one of the early and extremely influential custom maps from Counter-Strike, FY Ice World. Divisive, a little controversial. And you should make sure to read both parts of this article. The first one, it sort of explains like why you should care about FY Ice World, like what's interesting and controversial about it. But then the second one is this extremely deep dive, like sort of forensic analysis of the design of FY Ice World. It's the kind of thing that Robert Yang is known for as a level design analyst.
So definitely good. Okay. Check it out. All hail Stream Papa Robert Yang.
That's right.
These articles are brilliant.
Oh my God.
They're exactly the kind of thing I love. It's a deep dive, a design history of something that is easy to overlook because it's so simple. And Robert does an amazing job of like really unpacking what's interesting and cool about this one Counter-Strike map that honestly I didn't really even know about, but I just love stuff like this. It's so good. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, and here's another idea for a developer article. Name something that another developer does well that you're jealous of. And I have to say that like Robert's blog posts are like among the best blog posts of almost anybody that I know in the game development, game design community. They're even better than Emily Short's, which is saying a lot.
They're really good.
So shout out to Robert. What does FY stand for in Counter-Strike maps? I think that there's a question from chat.
That's spoiling part 2. That's the
it's spoiling
that's
part
the ending
2.
kicker of part 2.
Yeah.
Oh, the ending kicker. Okay.
We'll just say
well,
that
we better not actually say it then.
Eventually, people assumed it stood for fight yard, meaning this kind of open-ended, freeform mode.
Right.
But turns out it doesn't.
Yeah, it turns out it's not. Yeah, so read the article to find out. Excellent. Okay, so let's move on to our next plug. We're just, as Frank put it earlier, we're doing pure log rolling today, just exploiting the fact that this is the NYU Game Center Twitch channel. We want to give a huge shout out to this upcoming game. You should sign up to know about it now. This is the first game from Professor Mitu Kondaker's new game studio that was just formed several months ago. Their staff is amazing. It includes Latoya Peterson and Mitu and Tara, whose last name I'm spacing out on right now. But they have their first game is a mobile game that's based on HBO's Insecure. It's sort of coming out in conjunction with Tara Mustafa. Thank you. It's coming out in conjunction with the next season of Insecure, this show from HBO, which if you don't know about it, stars Issa Rae. And the mobile game is really interesting. I will reveal that I have been doing a little bit of beta testing of this game, and it combines a lot of interesting elements. Freestyle rapping, rhythm action, a lot of story, and interesting sort of economic, slightly grindy choices. So it's a super interesting, frothy mix of stuff.
It's got a different take on kind of rhythm action in the sense that this is a game about composition. You're not just trying to repeat the things you're told. You're actually coming up with word choices on the fly in rhythm. So it does kind of like capture that feeling of freestyle rapping, and it's quite interesting and good. Really worth checking out.
And if you're familiar with the hip hop artist Samus, she has actually done a huge amount of really interesting audio design for this game. And
I was blown away when I saw that Samus was involved in this project, which I only learned recently. That's so good. Yeah.
So Samus is one of the collaborators, along with other people from the Game Center, like Geneva Hayward, one of our students. So it's another amazing like homegrown collaboration with a lot of people who we have nothing but love for. Connor Carson as well. All right, let's keep going with more plugs. And we have to say, my terror about doing a show full of plugs is that we somehow miss mentioning somebody or miss a game that came out recently. So if you're like, how come they didn't talk about this? You should tell us. This is a really exciting one. Treachery in Beatdown City. Playing now. Here's the trailer. If you have not heard about this game, where have you been? First of all, it's an old school punch 'em up pixel art, like take you back to the 80s and 90s. River City Ransom, among many other references here, but updated not just for like much more complex action gameplay, sort of mixture of action and strategy, but also like really like on the nose, not shying away from politics, satire and mockery, and kind of like a political humor that's full of righteous rage. This comes from Sean Alexander, longtime friend of the Game Center, and he kickstarted this many years ago with the result that there are like a couple Game Center faculty who may appear in this game, and you might be able to like beat them up along the way or get them as your ally. I forget whether Charles is an enemy or an ally in this game.
He's got to be a boss. I believe Charles is a mini boss.
Charles is a mini boss. Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think and I
I'm
think
in this
that's
game.
true of Rick.
I'm a coward.
Oh, you're in.
I'm a cowardly fake boss or something.
Oh, a
Yang.
cowardly fake boss.
Watch out for Yang, everyone, in this game.
I also hope that is the role. Apparently, this not until later, but Rick Chibo is in this game too. Hopefully, also a cowardly fake boss or a mini boss of some sort. So yeah, this game I just have to say is much beloved. Sean and his team have been working on it for many years, and it's very exciting to see it coming out. So it came out a few weeks ago. Check it out. All right, let's keep on moving along. What do we have next? Another trailer. This time it's for, this is a game that you're going to be hearing about later directly from the developers. So we're not going to say too much about it right now. But this is Wyatt Young and Diego Garcia, as well as Greg Heffernan, Cosmo D, all worked on this game, Damaged in Transit. It's out today.
So here's one of my least proud moments. I told them this game should be called Supply Chain Management.
What?
That's my idea for the name. They were like, think of Damaged in Transit. I'm like, this is what this game should be called. Supply Chain Management.
That sounds like maybe it would work for like a Shunjun IO kind of Zachtronics game. Is that
kind of a Shenzhen IO Zachtronics?
Yeah, it is a little bit,
but it's like an action version. It's an action version of that kind of like circuit logic game.
Right. But it's but clearly
it's a much better name.
The appeal of this game is not quite the same as like you're gonna sink your brain deep into this Zach.
It's more like an action puzzler.
That's right. It's lighthearted. It's a lot of like comedic screw ups and like, oh my god, I can't believe that I dumped all this stuff, into the garbage accidentally and failed the level. But yeah, check this out. It's out today. And also right after the discourse, you're going to, a couple of developers are going to be on this stream talking about it. So let's keep on moving. You'll hear more about this later. What do we have up next? Nobody home, I think?
My internet's slow or something. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, weren't we just saying how grateful we are for the people that keep the internet running? I guess we still are. It came back after like...
They've done for us lately.
3 seconds. Yeah. I can't believe we had to wait 3 seconds. Internet. Nobody home. I wanted to give a shout out to this game from the Sheep's Meow, which includes several friends of the Game Center, including Brian Chung, who many of you may know, and NGJ Lee. Nobody Home is a co-op platformer. Interestingly, like a theme that we're gonna see recur among these plugs. It's in beta right now. I believe you can. There are ways on the Sheep's Meow's Twitter to like request a beta key. It looks adorable. It's about 2 little ghosts co-op platforming around a haunted house that's haunted by humans.
It really does look cute. I have not played this yet, but it looks gorgeous and I can't wait to play it.
All right, let's keep on moving.
Yep.
Yeah, and somebody's asking in chat, did anyone play those Lego Flash games back in that day? That's what we were talking about with Junkbot. Yeah, so there's a DNA going on here, I have to say. Frank and I both worked on Junkbot. Yeah. As well as other games from that era, Spybotics, the Nightfall Incident.
And World Builder.
World Builder, yes. Yeah. So like all of those games, they're deep buried in the DNA of the NYU Game Center, and secretly that DNA gets passed down to cute co-op platforming games and puzzle games with pixel art graphics. It's definitely, there's something of a New York style that I think is influenced by the fact that back in the late 90s and early 2000s, the entire New York game development community was just making small Flash games and Shockwave games.
Yeah.
So yeah, RIP Flash, RIP Shockwave. Tons of those games were Shockwave, which nobody even remembers anymore. Let's keep moving. Let's go to the next plug. This one, what can we even say about February? This is a collaboration of a bunch of people, including Blake Andrews and Dennis Carr, recent grads from the MFA program. You can tell by looking at this itch page how sheerly amazing and overwhelming the experience of this game is. I have not done more than dip a toe into the waters of this game yet, but once I did, I was electrocuted severely. So by ideas.
This game looks great. I thought it was called RPG Maker 2003.
Really?
I was confused by what the name was.
Maybe that is the name. Maybe I'm the one that's confused.
I don't know. Someone help us. What is the name of this game? I mean, in our defense, it's on purpose that this is deeply confusing. That's the aesthetic that we're looking at here. A kind of trash core beautiful nightmare. But
look, I'm a reductivist, and so when I downloaded this game, I got a file called February.zip. So as far as I'm concerned, that's what
it's called. February. Yeah.
Whatever you name the file name, that's what your game's called.
Danny in the chat says that RPG Combat Systems is the name of the collaboration between these two artists.
Right. Yes,
and
RPG Combat Systems. I knew about your collab.
So I don't feel so bad not knowing the actual name. Fuck names.
Excellent. Okay, let's keep plugging. Oh, I'm sorry. It's now not Blake and Dennis are both here. So if you want to know what the hell is going on, ask guys, them in chat. Don't ask us.
Yeah.
let's keep going with more plugs. Oh, this next one is good. Gotta play this video, make it full screen. We have to do a big shout out to Matt Bach, one of the faculty at the Game Center, for winning the award for audio achievement at BAFTA, the British Academy Film and Television Awards.
Like to thank
and he won it for Ape Out, which of course has this amazing procedural soundtrack. That's not even a good way of explaining how amazing the soundtrack for
the thank you video is also fantastic. Look at this.
Yeah, so just look at this video. You should watch this on your own time.
2020, motherfuckers.
We have to do a thing like this.
Yeah, this is Matt's backyard, geodesic dome and all. It's very like quarantine life and fashion.
It's what we call a clean dome.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I think I see
everyone will be living in them in a few months.
Stay safe.
What I'm personally excited about, right in the front there, next to Matt's foot, you see that they are growing garlic chives at home, which is just a fantastic use of yard space.
Yeah. And keeps the vampires away.
It's true.
I'd like to thank the
All right, let's keep on moving. Big shout out to Matt. Very well deserved.
That's a great soundtrack. I guess the soundtrack itself is going to be released, the OST. But is it? I don't know. I think I heard him mention that.
That would be interesting, yeah.
But I'm not sure how that would work. Is it like cuts? Is he going to release the code?
Maybe it'll be one of those soundtracks with like 10,000 tracks, and then you hit shuffle and you get a different album every time.
I don't know what's going to happen with that, but it's kind of exciting. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next and last plug. I think this one is a game from two Game Center alumni are on the team for this game called Biped. If this looks like an adorable game about two robots working together, congratulations, you're right. That's what it is. Yeah, so it's another co-op platformer, but this time in 3D with a lot of different interesting co-op mechanics going on as you hurl each other around and are slingshotted. There's action, there's adventure, there's cute robots. So here's the interesting thing. This game, although you wouldn't know it, they're not being very loud about this fact, is from Next Studios in Shanghai. And Next Studios is an interesting company because their goal is to produce games that have a little bit of an indie vibe like this one, that are very much about creating a charming experience that's not on the sort of like grand, massive AAA Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty scale, right? But it's actually one of the studios that's owned by Tencent in China, one of the largest internet companies in the world. And so they have sort of spun up this studio in Shanghai. Oh, we better cancel that. Go to the next link, actually. This studio in Shanghai is kind of their R&D workshop, where they do smaller scale games. I guess maybe a little bit like Ubisoft has a similar smaller studio that acts a little bit like an R&D studio, right? Or it's as if there's an indie inside of this much, much larger company. This article on gamesindustry.biz is about Next Studios, and where, like I mentioned, a couple Game Center alumni work there. And I actually got to work with two of our alumni who are there at Next Studio recently on a workshop, and they were telling me that the way games are made at Next is actually reminds them of working on an MFA thesis at the Game Center, which is to say, you're working on a little team. It's sort of a scrappy indie development process, right? Oh yeah, Peanut B Wolf in the chat is pointing out that EA Originals is a little like this too. So this is a model we're seeing more and more of. This article is pointing out that it's a little bit weird, or it's a misnomer to call them indies, right? Because they are not indie in the first sense that I think Jesper Juhl would say is the first definition of indie games is a game that's made without a whole lot of resources backing it, like outside the traditional publisher system. So certainly, if you are getting funded by the the largest game company in the world, or one of the largest, then you are not an indie in that sense, even if they give you a limited budget. But they are sort of trying to adopt this more experimental approach towards game design, which is the second definition of indie game that, according to Jesper Juhl's recent book on the subject. But I'm glad to see that we have graduates who get to work on interesting projects like this, right? Because so much of the Chinese game scene right now is either people getting paid well, relatively speaking, to work on mobile free-to-play games where they feel like they don't get to make a strong creative contribution, or indies in the indie scene, like it points out here, where it's actually really difficult economically and difficult to get games released too, because of the way that restrictions on new IP and publishing games work in China. So it's kind of a real treat. Good point. Thank you, Tony Pizza. So Nick Zhang is a creative director. I think maybe Nick was also part of overseeing this game that we just showed, Biped. And then the two alumni, we should shout them out personally. It's Lily Ling and Jing Zhao are the two Game Center alumni who work directly as like game designers and programmers on Biped. So it's a cool project. It's an interesting studio. What do you think, Frank?
I'm proud that the NYU Game Center has played a role over the past 10 years in a kind of cultural shift that's happening in games culture in China. We have had a lot of really brilliant, talented students that are coming from mainland China to study at the Game Center in the MFA program, especially, and with explicitly, I think, this idea of how to pivot, how to support this growing shift in Chinese game culture that wants to include this more kind of smaller scale, more original, more personal, more expressive, more experimental approach to game development. And this is great. It's great that it's happening, and to the degree that we've had some small influence on it by being a place that a lot of these talented young designers want to come and study. I think that's something that we're super proud of. I also think it's time to just get rid of indie as a useful phrase in this context. Yeah. It's just not.
Well, that's why I think Jesper's book is so useful, right? It's sort of pointing out just the meaning has changed over time until like they've gone through so many phases now that it's hard to say exactly what it means, or whenever anyone uses it, you don't know exactly what they mean. For example, one of the questions raised by this article is about the IGF, right? The Independent Games Festival.
Yes.
Right, which of course
that's exactly
what I was knows by now.
We were watching the awards show at home, Remain Indoors, and I was trying to explain to Hillary why there are two versions. She was like, "Why is there an awards show and then another awards show right after it that features the same games and the same people in the same industry?" And I'm like, "Oh, why? I don't know. Why do 4 of the months in our calendar have names that are the wrong number, right? 7, 8, 9, and 10. We have months named 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? September, October, November, December.
And they're actually
the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th months, right? We just live with it. It's because the world is broken, because everything in the world is like this weird vestigial legacy of some mistake that we just never bothered to fix. And in this case, our entire industry, like the biggest showcase we have for the games that we have, is just this big, messy, broken mistake about this division that we thought for a few years was like really important. And it was important. It did capture something meaningful for a while. And so now we're just stuck with it forever.
Right. Megaspell has pointed out that one of the people involved in getting our current calendar to where it is was Julius Caesar, right? Who was stabbed for doing this. So does that, I guess that means somebody should be stabbed for this whole indie debacle.
This is my new take on politics. I just want to escape the Trump era with the calendar intact. That's my new goal.
You don't want a new calendar?
Maybe that is too low a hurdle to get over. But at this point, I just want us to get out of this era without a new month.
Frank, I heard the key to reopening the economy is that if we have a 13th month, we'll become that much more productive. There'll be like a whole additional month in which companies can make money, do sales, exploit workers.
That's so outrageous. Surely that's the final straw. Well, we're done with him now because no one can accept that.
Yeah, I mean, everything else was like, I could see your point in, putting immigrants in camps, but Trump-ruary? I can't accept Trump-ruary.
Anyway, thank you for coming to the Game Center Live political moment.
There we go. That was the moment.
Was a trenchant, hard-hitting political commentary.
Well, let's talk about the real problem, and this is for indie games, is if we go down to the material level, right, that there are people who maybe were getting a little bit of attention for an extremely small project that could surface up through these showcases of indie games. And so when IGF became more and more similar to the other awards, then I guess it was kind of like IndieCade became the place that was trying to really curate, or maybe the Nuovo section of IGF was trying to say, okay, here's where we'll showcase these smaller, more experimental projects. And I think it's become clear in recent years that as you kind of step down the ladder, if there are like the big fish and then the medium-sized fish, then eventually you're down in the silt where it's like really hard for an event like smaller events and local events to survive or get attention. And so I think this is part of what people lament when they say like, oh, if there's no more indie really, then how are we finding out about these smaller experimental works? And I guess our answer is devote at least half of the discourse to plugging small events from small games from our own community. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, it's a matter of effort. It takes effort to seek out smaller things, and I encourage everyone to do that. I think it's part of becoming a sophisticated, smart, nuanced appreciator, aficionado of games, is to kind of look outside of your bubble and really seek out things that are a little bit harder to find and try to understand them.
Agreed. I would say, my long-term change this problem goal would be for everybody to have better, more interesting tastes. So maybe that will happen in several generations.
Yeah,
but
and
yes,
as Flan points out in the chat, shout out to Baby Castles.
Yes, Baby Castles.
Great sources. One of the all-time most kind of like important and influential forces for experimental and underground and
helping people develop better taste.
Yep.
Through promoting and supporting projects, and like Danny is pointing out in chat, curation. Danny also had a question. At the beginning of the IGF, wasn't it just any game that managed to launch independently? Yeah, the first grand prize, I think I was there that year, was the Seamus McNally team that did the tank game Treadmarks. Yeah. And back then there was no aesthetic component to indie, right? It was really just all about resources. But to understand more about the evolution, definitely read Jesper Juul's book about indie games. Okay, let's keep on moving to the next. Oh, Wonderville. Good shout out to Wonderville too. But let's go to the next link. Where are we at right now? Oh yeah, let's talk about what it means to be indie in terms of actual economic resources in China, right? Since that last article was about should people who work at Next be considered indies. But here's the thing that I think everyone watching this who was raised in, say, the United States should keep in mind. So online game companies make a huge amount of money in China. They're some of the largest companies, and they have the highest pay in China tech. But the global economy is such that the scale of pay, and also, expenses and rent and things like that are different as well, but the scale is radically different. So a really good, well-paying tech job at a company like Tencent in China will pay you 10,000 yuan a month, which comes out to something like $18,000 a year in US dollars. So we're still talking about like radically different, radically different amounts of money at the global scale, which maybe it doesn't matter so much if you're just talking about how much money do I need to eat and
it's
to pay rent.
confusing because it's not really clear. First of all, it's not really clear how money works.
Right, it isn't.
It's definitely not clear how money works in contemporary China. 18,000. I don't know what it's like, what that means, but I think the context is so different that's got to mean something different than what it would mean here.
Yeah, it's fake until it's not, which is why I'm kind of saying what really matters is can you manage to pay your rents, which I think is a constantly pressing question for a lot of indies, at least the folks who are not at the big indie end of the scale.
Yeah, well, no one's paying rent anymore, so it's all good.
Is the rent strike on in New York? I had not heard. Hopefully.
Month, I believe.
Okay, let's keep on moving to our next link.
Oh,
yes, we've got to talk about this. Robert, you're running out of complimentary articles from Wired. So this was the big news yesterday, right? Just happened. That there was a leak of CS:GO code that also applies to Team Fortress 2. I actually think maybe it was from Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
And apparently this had been out in the wild for a little while because it had to do with a developer teams that Valve was working with. But when it had leaked out to people doing mods and messing around with the source code for Team Fortress, then eventually all it takes was one jerk, right? There was one guy apparently who got disgruntled with this team that he was with, who had access to this leaked source code that got leaked in 2018, and then he decided to leak it all over the internet. So that has kicked off like a big controversy, which is like there are a few big questions here. One was, okay, who's to blame here? And it seems like it's this one jerky guy. I know there was a little bit of Twitter discourse yesterday. Robert was pointing out that there was a particular popular modder. I think maybe I'm the identity.
He's kind of a modder. I think he's controversial just because he features a lot of like cut leaked content. Like he's frames himself as a journalist who's covering the files that Valve doesn't want you to see and stuff like that.
Right.
But you can also think
Tyler
of that as
McVicker, right?
Yeah, Tyler McVicker. So he's a little bit of a controversial figure, I would say, among modders, because it's like, why do you have to keep digging through Valve's trash? Just leave them alone. But it's also like, oh, are you like doing what the people want? Stuff like that.
Right. We're certainly doing maybe what will get some clicks at least, right? It's a sort of more edgy way to be a modder or be a journalist. But yeah, so it was a group that he was part of, and then there was somebody within that group, of course, like Tyler McVicker, like maybe a clickbaity or edgy journalist, but then among the people that he hangs out with, surprise, there's somebody who's an even bigger jerk, who was apparently even got kicked out of this group for being incredibly like racist and homophobic and transphobic and other stuff. And so after that guy got kicked out, he's like, I'm going to leak this code. Now the other question is this actually a problem? Valve is saying, no, this is not a big deal. This is old code. You don't have to worry about it with CS:GO. But interestingly, go to the next link. Oh wait, this has been updated since I looked at it. So earlier this morning, Valve had said, yeah, this is not a problem for CS:GO, but Team Fortress 2, they were saying, yeah, it actually might be. They were not commenting about Team Fortress 2, so people were really worried that there might be a vulnerability in TF2 that let hackers take control of people's local machines by executing code on your side. Yeah, remote code execution, right? That kind of exploit. And what is this article saying now? That it's not a big deal for Team Fortress 2 either? I can't quite see it.
One day on the discourse, we'll be looking at an article that Robert wrote that he's updating in real time.
Right.
We'll be asking Robert to refresh the page on an article that he's currently writing. That's how interconnected we are with the news. Again, we make the news, we don't report on it, and then we're proud of that.
Yeah, so that might have already happened earlier this session. We don't even know. But it looks like Valve has now confirmed that they don't think it's a big deal for Team Fortress 2 players either. This could, of course, affect people who are not playing on the official servers, who don't have like the latest updates, right? We now live in this world where people have to get every update in order to like not get your computer taken over by a malicious person who will then ransomware you or something. So I think this caused a bit of a kerfuffle, like, uh-oh, is this going to cause a lot of hacks? But now maybe it's settled down and it's not really there are not grave consequences for this. However, there is a code leak, and yeah, there are some comments and swears in the comments for this code. Go to the next.
The real headline here. The
real
top,
headline. Yeah.
The top story is that there are swears in the code.
Yeah, I think this is the one at least that was reported on by Video Game 24/7. That one Team Fortress dev called his colleague a knob.
Yes.
Oh shit!
Not a good insult. What are you?
That's not a good insult. Yeah, that's. I think it's probably speaks more to the low quality of insults.
Yeah.
At Valve.
Yeah.
Than anything else. Like, what does this say? This shit doesn't work. Why has I ever?
Has I ever? Has it ever? And then, and then also, like, yeah, there's lots. That's fun to see. But I would say that to me, the first of all, if your security protocol is hoping that no one is mad at you, then that's not really a good, like, that's not the security mindset. It's like, we're going to release this code to a bunch of people and we hope none of them get mad at us and then send it on to other people. Like, that's just not having security at all. The second thing that occurs to me is that if you take a wider view of this, it's probably good. And this is sort of like this kind of accidental spread of the source code is a necessary step towards developing some genuine long-term solutions to the problems of cheating in multiplayer games. So we have a very complicated, convoluted, kludgy server client architecture that these games are built on, where cheating is a serious problem, and this is a step towards ultimately coming up with good, robust solutions to that. It's like a forest fire in the sense that it's going to do damage in the short run, but ultimately for the long-term health of this environment is probably a good thing. The last thing I wanted to just say is it's a reminder of how important the code for this particular chunk of code is. If you think of the design history of PC action games, if you think of what it means to rocket jump and what it means to bunny hop and what it means to surf, all of these things come out of the material reality of the quirky, like point by point details, like the actual material qualities of this particular chunk of code is a deeply important historical artifact. So I just think it's a good time to kind of remember that and celebrate this particular pile of semicolons and letters.
Yeah, and security is so often cited as a reason why it's not okay to be more transparent about source code. That, and of course, intellectual property. That all this has to be sort of hidden behind closed doors, and it's obviously not that great as a security method to just hope that nobody ever sees your source code, so that they won't find the flaws in it. It just doesn't hold up over time anyway. So yeah, why not embrace the fact that this stuff will just get out there, right?
It's also like I think an important part of the legacy of American PC gaming culture, this openness, right? The fact that you are shipping tools and allowing for mods and map making, and there's this kind of openness which is low on security and high on community-based innovation, and that's a great trade-off. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if people can't continue to play, Team Fortress because of wall hacks, I mean, that's a shame. But ultimately, we will benefit from this janky openness in going forward for centuries.
Yeah, and I think people should leave weird comments in their code, and they should just assume that everyone's going to read them eventually. And
code is literature.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. All right, let's keep talking about hacks and exploits. This is interesting. Maybe going in the opposite direction. I'm not sure. Riot is offering up to $100,000 for Valorant exploits. This, I think, shows that this is kind of a big deal in terms of money because of the amount of liability that could be involved for Riot, right? Or for Valve in the other case. But in this case, I think Riot is offering a lot of money only for the most dangerous exploits that could be used to execute code on someone else's machine. That could turn all of their customers into ransomware victims. So they want to sort of nip that in the bud, and it's worth $100,000 to them if they stop that. That's
I think bug bounties are good. It's a good way to make money. I think this is like a good version of the gig economy. Big companies offering money for people who find exploits and find bugs. I mean, this is
right.
People
so white hats get to it, I guess, is the headline here. This is interesting. It's come up a couple times. So somebody mentioned the Valve anti-cheat system, and now Riot has also come under a lot of criticism recently for its anti-cheat system, right? That you sort of have to install something that really sinks its tendrils deep into the roots of your system in order to play Valorant, this new game, right? So it's in your kernel. This is a tough problem, right? Because cheats are also operating at such a low level that's the only reason that these anti-cheat kernel drivers actually are used in the first place. I don't know. I think the question is, if you had two tiers of play, like if you could play Valorant without this anti-cheat driver and you could play it with the anti-cheat driver, then which one would people play in, right? Like if you could just opt out, would there be enough people also opting out of using this kernel driver, or should there be no such thing in the first place because it's too tempting to do that, right?
I want to suggest that this is a good time to investigate an underlying assumption, which is there is one huge global community of Valorant players versus what used to happen, which was the idea of local servers, right? And I think during this coronavirus, there is this sense that there's a desire for a return to smaller scale types of multiplayer social interaction. People
right, like playing with people you trust.
Going back to their Minecraft servers so that they can play with their friends and hang out, right? And there used to be a different mode for online multiplayer before BattleNet. There was this more local sense of having a server, knowing the people who are on it. And cheating is different. We don't need to have software to find cheaters at our poker game that we're playing around the kitchen table, because these people are our friends, they're our family. We have this relationship, we have this kind of trust and reputation and principles and values, and those are the things that we normally. It's only when we try to scale that up to be global, and so we need to investigate that question, because like it's a trade-off, but we don't necessarily need everything to be the NBA. Like there is a place in the world for pickup basketball in a local neighborhood court. There's a place in the world for softball, right? Think of the way softball works versus the Major League Baseball, right? And there are all these different scales for sports and other kinds of games that for which these problems are different and they have a different texture. So I think it's time to like rethink this sort of assumption that every new game has to operate on this scale in this kind of homogeneous, global, universal space that then has to figure out, how do we protect ourselves against the particular kinds of problems that happen in that.
And I have to admit, although we promised not to mention Animal Crossing, I'm going to do it now. This was what I thought Animal Crossing was going to be, right? I was like, oh, that's genius. They're just creating little 8-player servers where you hang out on an island together, and it's your island that you have to share and figure out how to use together. And of course, the reality of Animal Crossing is nothing like that, because it's basically a single-player game when you get down to it. But I couldn't agree more. This is what I felt like is the eventual destination for multiplayer online, where we're going to get back to. And notably, like, this is the Minecraft model. It's like it was huge in Minecraft and then kind of faded away again, right? Like the scale kept going up and up, more and more ambitious. EVE Online was sort of the peak there. Mm-hmm. And then we went back down to like the scale of Minecraft servers, where it is all this local idea. And that is a huge part of the recipe for the success of that game.
Yeah.
But it didn't turn into a wave. It didn't turn into like a ton of games using that model. I think because, then the idea of scale for esports and streaming and social media platforms, right, all got to be, well, obviously the best is if it's everybody in one gigantic room. That's the biggest room ever, therefore the best room ever.
Because streaming is a good example of people carving out a little neighborhood,
a niche,
out of the giant megalopolis. So you find a streamer who they themselves are just climbing this infinite ladder of millions of other anonymous players. But you and them are in this cozy little corner where it's just a dozen people or 100 people enjoying that. So I think it's a good example of it. Give it time; it'll come back. That's how waves work. They oscillate.
All right, let's keep on going. We have a little bit more time to look at more links. What was next? I think we were talking about Valve's bounty, right? We had a bunch of articles about Valorant. I think we wanted to talk about Valorant at some point, right? It's part of Riot's whole reinvention of themselves as a new type of game company. And it's actually getting a fair amount of positive praise from critics, from journalists. This article I thought was particularly interesting because the author is saying, look, I'm not a good player of games like this, but the fact that Valorant is has a lot of weird little crunchy bits makes it easier to jump into as a player who's not particularly good. That the types of contributions a player can make are so variegated in this game. Yeah. I don't know if I think that this is just an initial phase of a game development.
As you pointed out earlier, Naomi, when we were talking, a lot of these Valorant articles seem like they might be spin. They might be PR.
Especially Ars Technica and Eurogamer, they keep putting out positive.
Yeah, there's the meme that forcing people to watch other people play is a great recipe to make a game non-toxic. Which just strikes me as being I'm dubious of that. Maybe it's good, but I don't know. That seems like spin.
I asked a couple people who've been playing Valorant about that, and they were like, "No, I got cursed out thoroughly when I was playing and screwed something up." That's the very next link, by the way. I think
I think it's too early to tell. I think Valorant looks great, and it's a really interesting moment because the big question with Riot is, are they a game studio or are they the League of Legends studio? Right.
And, so,
and in some ways, this is the question like Zynga had to answer. Like, are we the Farmville company or do we make a bunch of games like Farmville? Farmville is just one of our many successful games. I don't think Zynga answered that question correctly.
Yeah, well, they had Mafia Wars and some other games before that, but
So, but I think Riot is having. I think that's a deep, hard question for them to answer and to figure out as a studio, and I think they're doing a really good job at trying to answer that question. And I think this is maybe one of the first, because Legends of Runeterra was not a great answer to that question, but I think this might be, and we'll see what happens. There's a lot of talented, smart, interesting people working at Riot. I mean, they hired like 70% of working game designers over the past few years, and it's good to see them, really trying things and making interesting stuff and having some success.
And they are still. So the chat wants to know your thoughts on Legends of Runeterra. That game's like, it's not even fully released yet. I think it's due to come out, the final launch, in a week.
I'll put my thoughts into the chat.
Okay, thoughts on Legends of Runeterra in chat. Let's actually skip forward a couple links to the last link in the Valorant section, which is about Hypixel, a completely different game. Riot has just acquired Hypixel, which is making this game Hytale, which is kind of what it sounds like, is a cross between Zelda and Minecraft. And so this is their next acquisition, right? Is they're going to make another little it's a Minecraft fantasy world. So I'm fascinated. Like, I could sort of see Valve making Legends of Runeterra, Valve making Valorant. It's not, why can I keep saying Valve? Riot making Legends of Runeterra and Valorant. But this is a really new direction for them, and it kind of echoes some things that some scuttlebutt I've been hearing about the types of meetings that Riot has been taking, their business development people, with various types of games. So they're sticking to online, but this is not a competitive esport like game, right? This is something completely different. It's way more kid friendly. I think it's part of this weird reinvention that they're trying to do.
Looks like Minecraft.
that's exactly
a contribution.
Yeah, it's Minecraft Zelda, and this is actually a fan modding group that turned into a studio.
Naomi, do you get royalties when people release games like this? Do you get a check?
I should, because I should at least get a patent check.
You should get some kind of check. So
every time a Minecraft game gets released, I'm owed a huge amount of money because I have the patent on the interaction.
Right.
But sadly, I signed over all of my royalty rights for patents to the Lego company, so they should be getting paid. And I just don't think they're bothering.
30% goes to Zach, and 30% goes to you.
I'll just take a little bit off the top. That's fine for me. Of all that Minecraft money, I'm gonna go visit Notch one of these days and be like, give me some of that candy. All right.
First Notch mention in the discourse. Nice.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned Notch in ever in the discourse. I think for a reason. Okay. We don't have much time left, but this next link is something that you really wanted to talk about, Frank.
Is this the machine learning stuff?
The machine learning thing.
Yeah. So who knows what's going on inside of Google Stadia? Once again, we're the only people who talk about Stadia. We somehow end up talking about Stadia all the time. In this case, I think it's particularly interesting because some of the people involved that we are kind of like friends of the sort of like loosely attached Game Center folks. So there's Aaron Hoffman-John, right? And then if you go down, you'll see another person who is, help me out, I can't read.
This is Anna Kipnis, right?
Anna Kipnis,
yeah, sorry, Anna. So yeah, just super interesting people doing kind of weird stuff with AI and machine learning inside this one studio, inside of Stadia, inside of Google. I'm following along because I think that's a really interesting and kind of underexplored territory of game design, which I'm personally really interested in. And this is a nice. This article is a kind of a nice peek into some of the stuff that they're doing. I think still very much kind of tools focused in a way, like, oh, machine learning and AI can augment or automate or magnify, the work that game designers do. Whereas I'm especially interested in a kind of really wholehearted exploration of the aesthetics of these new techniques and instruments. But I'm particularly interested, Aaron and Anna, I think are interesting designers and doing some cool work. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because when Stadia folks had been talking about this machine learning before, some of them were talking about it in this weird way that was like, well, we could help game companies make huge amounts of assets. Because when you make a strategy game, you need like thousands of different characters for all the cards in the strategy game. We can just help, machine learning can just help you produce more cards, by which they meant like the characters on the cards to just kind of produce endless visual variations of things. But then what Anna Kipnis is talking about in this article with the semantic machine learning that's being used for the behaviors of that fox you were seeing is much more interesting, right? Because they're looking at a system that's using the cloud and semantic machine learning to do things like you talk to the fox and you say, I want a cup of coffee, and the fox brings you a mug. And all of that was just sort of done by the machine learning cloud. Like you didn't have to explain what a mug was, right? The mug was something that the machine learning cloud figured out was related to coffee, and so the fox was then instructed to go and bring you a mug. That kind of thing.
This is a whole area of game design that the legacy is things like Black and White by Peter Molyneux. The Facade, the famous AI experiment that with natural language processing that came out of UC Santa Cruz, Michael Matias and that whole group. And but it's even if you think about little computer people, right? This famous English game, and I'm just personally interested in where that is going to go now that we have these new techniques that are so powerful that we're seeing applied in all these different ways. What happens when those techniques are applied to the heart of the game? So it's not just about, oh, imagine a 10-person team that can make a game the size of World of Warcraft, because I'm not interested in another game that looks like World of Warcraft. What I'm interested in is that 10-person team making a game that no one's ever seen before. Right?
Yeah.
I'm interested in
a continuation of these weird games that people are mentioning in chat, like Creatures. That's a great game series. Okay, we are running over time. We have to turn this over to the next guests, to Wyatt and Diego. Congratulations on the launch of your game, guys, and we will see you all later.
Bye, everybody. Bye, chat.
Bye.
Thanks, Naomi. Thanks, Robert. Mirabai. Thanks.
Thanks, Mirabai.
Thank okay, thank you, Frank and Naomi. So we're going to change over to our next segment. Our next segment is Damage in Transit with the developers of Damage in Transit, Diego and Wyatt. Frank, can you leave the Zoom now? Because I don't know how to kick you out. And then Wyatt, can you turn on your video, please?
All right. Yep, done?
Yeah. Yeah, there you are. Okay, I'm going to switch over. Thanks for joining us, Diego and Wyatt. Do you want to intro your game while I try to get everything set up, please?
Yeah, so today, Damage in Transit, our new game, is coming out on Switch. It's been out for a little bit on Steam and on itch.io. And it is a split attention action puzzle game. So the player is simultaneously piloting 2 drones around 125 tricky, really treacherous levels. and trying to deliver packages. So the real catch of the game is that you have these two characters that you have to control at the same time, but you don't actually have direct control over either of them. Each map has arrow tiles at intersections that you have to, whenever you press up, down, left, or right, it's going to change every single arrow on the map. So you're sort of balancing the idea of, well, you're like juggling the two drones that are on totally different sides of the map when any control is going to affect both of them. Does that make sense, Wyatt?
Yep, I think that's a good description of the game.
Yeah, so Wyatt is the developer and designer. He was pumping out like 20 levels a day, and then we like spent about a year and a half really taking it around to shows, honing it down, polishing all those levels. And I was the artist and animator on the game and contributed to the overall design. It's so exciting to see it on the Nintendo website.
Can you stall for a little bit longer while I try to get the game running?
Sure.
Tell us more about the development. Like, how did the idea come out, and then what was it like to work on it?
Yeah, so I think it was in maybe 2016, the summer of 2016. I was MFA at the Game Center, and it was the summer. It was between the first year and second year. I just wanted to work on a project, and I was thinking, it was like, oh, how can I get I was trying to see whether we can have a game that's like juggling. You know, you kind of use like simple controls that you kind of have two things at the same time. So it was abstract at a point of time, and it was just like two balls, and then you just move around, and you're just controlling the arrows, and you kind of juggle them around and move them to the exit. Only later on, it was 2018, late 2018, I think. I got hold of Diego. I was like, hey, do you want to work on this project together? And then we kind of themed it, and then we developed more mechanics, more levels, and then we got this product now.
Yeah, when Wyatt first came to me initially, I was gonna say no because I was super busy at the time with other game projects and with teaching at NYU. But the prototype already, I think it was only like, I don't remember if you sent me like 4, maybe 10 levels. But it was already so fun that it just felt like the perfect game for my art style. I really wanted to work on it. Oh yeah, and Frank just said in the chat the music is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So the music in the game is by Greg Heffernan, Cosmo D, who is also affiliated with the Game Center, teaches there now, and made Norwood Suite and Tales from Off-Peak City. Yeah. Yeah, so we spent like a year taking it around to events. We tested it a lot at, we took it to Playcrafting, we took it to Boston Fig, we took it to MagFest.
Play NYC.
Yeah, Play NYC. So a lot of the process was just like watching people struggle. It's a really brutally difficult game. So it was sort of like balancing that intention of really extreme difficulty with also, you know, some amount of accessibility and teaching people what we needed them to pick up, you know, as they played the game. Hold on a second.
Sorry, full screening is like destroying my computer, so I'm gonna have to play it windowed. Sorry.
Okay.
It keeps like moving my windows around. Okay. I think we're ready to go then. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to play this game. You two will have to coach me, I think, a little bit about how to play. We'll
For
see
sure.
how I do,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, so you can see like everything's themed delivery. You're playing as the foreman character, that guy holding the controller. So you're the head of a delivery company, and you're indirectly controlling these drones. They're just going to move on their own. And your only buttons you'll need the whole time, Robert, are up, down, left, and right.
I get this better? Hold on. Let me
Hang
just
on.
try to do some
Just give the level
OBS
select.
magic. Hold on.
My beautiful art.
Let me try to showcase your beautiful art a little. Is it helping? This is live OBS magic, people. This is how it goes.
Yeah,
okay.
I like this. This is working.
I think this works
I'm
kind
shivering.
of. Kind of. Okay, this will have to do. Okay. Let's go. Okay.
All right, level 1-1.
Okay, so this is an easy one. Oh yeah, first a little bit of story. You can press any button to advance here. So you're the foreman of this company, you get a call from your boss, and he's calling you and your drones for an important job down at the port. And of course, you are in.
I can't set the game audio louder. It only goes between 0 and 10%. So you need to talk louder, unfortunately. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're the foreman of this company, and your boss is calling you to an important job at the port, so you're setting sail. And one more button press will get you on to level 1-1. So this level is going to be easy for you, Robert. You can't die here. So anytime you press a button, you're going to set the arrows to point in that direction, up, down, left, and right. And your drones will start moving as soon as you press anything.
I can't die here, huh? We'll see about that. I'm gonna try to find a way to die.
There's actually one secret way to die at this level, but typically
really?
you cannot.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, you can.
Nice.
There you go.
So you got your drones into the checkout.
Yeah, so the controls for the entire game is just 4 arrows, up, down, left, right. So all the mechanics, all the different things are all based on this simple mechanism.
Yeah, so now on 1-2, we're introducing you to the one of the core ideas of the game, which is that it's hard and you die a lot. So anytime you send a robot into the water, it will sink and die, and obviously those spikes will also kill you. There's no HP or anything. Anytime you hit an obstacle, you lose the puzzle.
Let me switch to the game 2 damaged in transit in the official panel, so people can discover us.
Also, if you do want to lower the audio, you can use our volume controls in the settings.
Yeah, I did. It only.
Oh, okay.
It's at 10%. This is what it sounds like at 10%.
Okay.
I think. Sorry. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, just point us in the right direction. Right. Okay, super easy. Let's. Oh no! Oh fuck. Okay. Oh my god,
so same
this is
idea
so
as the
stressful.
previous level here. Now we're
So the first 3 levels
in.
are just to familiarize the player with the control scheme, because the robots are kind of together, so it's not really juggling yet, but it's just getting people used to hitting the arrows at the right time.
Right, so here's where we start to separate you a little bit. Now you're going to have to really pay attention to the full screen and make sure you're aware of where each drone is.
Oh my god, I'm so good at this game now. First try. Oh my god, I beat it on my first try.
Nice.
Oh god, I'm gonna die a lot here. This is not. Oh my god.
Yeah, so now we're really like introducing you to the meat of the game, right? It's all about this idea of totally splitting your attention.
Oh no! I was so close.
That's
Close.
okay. Everybody dies there once.
Oh god. Oh my god.
Yeah, so
That death is that's the exact location for the
Oh
death
my
we used
God.
in the trailer, isn't it?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I might
It's
need to
true
set
that
this
even-
easier.
Yeah, so you can lower the move speed of the robots if it's a little too intense, for sure.
Ah, I keep dying there.
I think it's especially one thing that's hard about showing this game is it's especially hard to play while also focusing on a conversation.
Oh my god, I did it! Yay!
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, huge thanks says in the chat that he wants to see heat maps of where the players have died. That would be really cool.
That would be
we
funny,
didn't
yeah.
think with that, but
Yeah, that's a question I have. What was it like to balance this game? How did you know when it was too easy or too hard?
I think it's just a lot of times playtesting. You just look at the players and then see what's happening, and you try to figure out why are they having difficulty. Sometimes maybe if they have not learned something, a mechanic yet, and then it's like, oh, we need to teach them a bit earlier, or spacing it out so that there's a gradual ramp as the levels progress. So it's not all the difficulty is slowly increased, and sometimes it's just figuring out. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Diego, go ahead.
I was just impressed that Robert just no-scoped that unsinking level.
No scope.
Oh, he did it first try. Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's a level that we added like tutorial text on. We added mechanics because that was one of the hardest balancing level challenges we actually had. Is people just could not figure out the solution to that puzzle.
Oh.
So we introduced one new mechanic on this level. It's the spikes. So every time you hit up, down, left, or right, the spikes will toggle up and down. So you kind of have, on top of controlling the arrows, there's weight to the button presses where the spikes go up and down. You kind of manage that as well.
Yeah, and all the obstacles in the game work on that that concept. So we're never introducing new controls. It's always just tied to the controlling of the arrows.
Oh, never press right. Oops.
Yeah, so you could that level we're teaching that even with a press of the same direction, you'll still toggle the spikes.
Oh, and now the game is patronizing me. Now the game's like, you can change the difficulty if you want. Jeez, thanks, game.
That's always an option.
Oh, maybe I should change the difficulty. Maybe I should lower the difficulty, though. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh.
Sorry, what were you saying?
One of the most difficult days of development was near the end when we had to test every level and just test the build on every different platform. So I was at Wyatt's house testing the game on the Switch, and it took me like 7 hours to beat the game on Switch. Because you're on level, what is this, level 9 out of 120?
125.
125, yeah. And they definitely get harder.
Oh. Yay, nice.
See, I can play video games sometime. Look at this.
And so this whole first world is the port world, right? And all the art in this world is kind of based on a trip I took to Spain. So it was all like inspired by these fishing towns in Spain. But the game goes through 5 different worlds, so every world has a totally unique set of obstacles and a totally unique aesthetic as well.
My favorite thing is the bird on the little wooden pole. That's my favorite decoration.
Yeah, Wyatt cheated the tile system to put that bird there.
Oh wait, no.
Oh, you almost
bad.
solved it.
Oh.
How does it feel to play this game, Robert? I want the player perspective.
Oh my god, it's so I feel like I'm like, oh god. I feel like I'm trying to like drink a glass of water while rubbing my belly while balancing. You know, it's like plate spinning, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I did that
Yeah,
wrong.
I think that sort of like extreme challenge, like frequent dying aspect of it is what actually makes it so good on the Switch. It's like it's a great game to play in bursts and like bash your head against a puzzle until you just can't take it anymore, and then like 10 minutes later you're like, wait a minute, no, I can do it. I think it plays really well handheld.
Yeah, you can stop at any time. If you're commuting, you just stop at any time and it's fine.
It's also worth mentioning that it has co-op. So the co-op mode originally, when Wyatt came to me with the prototype, it was a one-player game. It was a one-player game for a lot of development. And Wyatt, every once in a while, would be like, I've been thinking about this co-op idea. Maybe I'll try it. And his solution was, since nobody's controlling either drone, we can't just like give each person a drone to be responsible for. So what happens instead is player 1 can point the arrows left and right, and player 2 can point the arrows up and down. So actually co-op, even though I saw one review that was like, if it's too hard, grab a friend and try on co-op, but that's not how it works. Like co-op makes the game exponentially harder because you're adding into this like timing and juggling element, also communication and the ability to cancel out each other's moves. Wyatt, Salty Horse asked in the chat if the co-op is inspired by Magic Maze.
I actually have never heard of Magic Maze.
Yeah, what's Magic Maze?
No.
Have you?
I don't
I
know.
haven't
Can I
heard of
search
Magic
it now? I'm gonna search it now real quick.
The game people usually compare this to is Choo Choo Rocket. And I like that comparison, although it's actually a pretty different game. Obviously, Choo Choo Rocket, you don't have you have like full control over where the arrows go. But it kind of has a similar feel in that you're like setting up moves ahead of time and indirectly controlling the things that you want to get to the goal.
Oh, I think Magic Maze is a board game. I see little pieces on like top down, and then you place arrows to do stuff. I don't know, but no, I've never heard of Magic Maze.
Oh no, I'm stuck.
It reminds me of Robo Rally, also sometimes. Yeah, if you're stuck, you could just hit R.
Oh no.
Yeah, split attention, split management, I think it's just something that's inherently very difficult. But I think I was showing the game at MagFest once, and this woman, she played it, and she was amazing at it. And after she stopped playing, she was like, "Oh yeah, this is just like juggling." She's actually she teaches people to juggle, so she was really good at the game. She had like no problem.
That's so cool that skill set transfers over directly like that. Yeah, Lemony says.
Oh wait, I didn't put the key in the lock. Oh my god. Oh no.
Hit R.
He just walked away with the key. What a jerk.
Lemony says they haven't played Robo Rally in a while, but doesn't it play a little like this? This is like if you imagine Robo Rally, but like combined with speed or something. Like you can't stop, and you just have to like keep playing your cards as fast as you can. And if you don't, they'll like burn in your hand or something. I think we're about to get to a new obstacle type.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So now you're meeting the, well, I'll let you find out what it does. How about that?
Oh my god. Oh, it's so mean. Oh my god.
This is my favorite obstacle in the game. This is the trip trap. So it's a pressure plate that gets angry when the drones go over it because they're a little too, well, they're robots. They're made of metal. And so it shoots spikes up. So what it does is it makes each path only usable by one drone at a time. And it lets us, just kind of guide the player and force the player to separate, where like sometimes you can kind of like finagle puzzles by getting the robots to be right next to each other, and it makes it a lot easier. If we put these trip traps in, I mean, you can't do that.
Oh wait, uh-oh.
I just told you that, Robert.
Oh my god. Well, I'm confused. I'm trying to run a stream, listen to you, and play the game. I'm spinning like meta plates here. I'm playing 3 different versions of this game all at once. Oh my god. Wait, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my god, I'm so scared.
Oh, you're fine.
You're doing good.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a level where people get stuck. It's a pretty tough one.
Oh, peer pressure was one of the original options for the title of the game.
Yeah, a couple of the level titles are previous title ideas: Peer Pressure, Port Panic, Hardcore Harbor. But once we expanded Quake Quandary, yeah, that was like a good title we played with. But the thing is, once you're past the first level, you're no longer in a port. You go to an oil rig, you go to the subterranean mines, and you go to...
Oh no, so close.
An oasis. Oh, you almost had it.
Oh, you almost had the simultaneous finish, too.
Yeah. I like
There's
that
a couple
best.
ways to end this level. I believe in you.
Like,
Oh,
You should not believe in me. You should not
Misplaced
believe in me.
faith.
This might be the level that breaks me, I think. I don't know. We'll see.
Find your bite. Nice.
Simultaneous exit feels so good.
I should get a bonus for simultaneous. Like, it should mention, like, good job. You're even better than other people. You know,
Well,
yeah, it should be, like, noted.
Insider info, if you're a Steam user, you'll get a notification at that point.
Oh, really? Nice.
I think that's true, right, Wyatt?
Yeah. Was there a achievement for that level? I forgot.
We must have.
Maybe.
Wait, I don't know what's happening. Okay.
Someone in the chat earlier pointed out, as I was saying, that it's a good game to pick up and put down, that you don't have that option right now. So I feel your sometimes like this, sometimes when I'm programming, my brain will like get into this like fog state, and I can't, like, I just, no matter how many times I look at the line of code, I won't understand it. I definitely get into that mode playing this once in a while.
Wyatt, someone in chat, Steve-O Pineapple in chat asks, maybe someone already asked this, but what's your process of designing the levels?
What do you start with?
Okay, so I think the core game is about split attention, split management. So we'll always design mechanics, right? That kind of like plays around with this idea, making sure that the robots are split up. You have to look at different things at the same time. You have to kind of have sequence where robot A has to do something to help robot B. And so based on the mechanics, there are interesting dynamics we want to get the people to do. So, for example, the level that was like left, we want them to have a timing of toggling the spikes up and down without moving any other direction. So if we have a dynamic that we want, and then we kind of put the mechanics at different places to kind of reflect this dynamic. It's like get people to enjoy and see this dynamic, and then we'll kind of like tune it, kind of get it better and see that it works.
Salty Horse asked if there are speed runs yet. We haven't seen any speed runs yet, but we put the timer in there for that reason. The hard thing about speed runs for this game is that each level has like a fixed speed, right? If you play it perfectly based on the move speed of the robots, you can't go any faster.
What the heck just no?
Especially, you got it.
Oh.
So Robert, this level is definitely way easier if you can get the robots to be next to each other. Oh,
Yeah, I wasn't
that's right,
reading
he did
their
that,
hints until just now. I thought I was being arrogant and thought I didn't need any hints.
So there's no speed runs yet, but you can. We record the number of times you press a button on the level, so you can try to get the best run that way. And you can up the speed in the difficulty settings to 140%, so you can play a little faster that way. I'd be interested to see somebody speed run the whole game. That sounds like a Herculean feat, but
Yeah. I think speed running 140% co-op. I think that's I definitely want to see that happen. I think a lot of levels, like,
we've never seen anyone
just,
beat the game co-op, right? So
no, yeah. And the thing is that there are a lot of levels where they're a lot more complicated. You have to do a lot more things before you finish the level. So you have to do 5, 6, 7, 8 different things in sequence. And I think figuring out what the optimal path is to get the quickest time is probably interesting.
mm-hmm.
So I want to see people kind of figure out ways to kind of like save time and save steps, save presses.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, it's 1:30 now, but we'll see if Robert was able to get to the boss. Then we start to see some of those levels that really have like a long series of steps to accomplish. Right? You need to like unlock the door to get the other key, so you can press the button, so you can get to the boss, so you can hit him on one of his 4 sides. Right? So each world culminates in a boss that brings together all of the obstacles we've introduced in that world, and you need to hit the boss from all 4 sides. So, no, you're good. This is a tough level. Poop emoji. It's called.
Oh, it's 1:30. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna give up here. I think I did okay, right?
Yeah, that was a worthy attempt.
Especially when you're talking and managing the stream. That's actually really good.
Yeah, multitasking.
I think it gives people a good. Yeah, it gives a good sense of the extreme difficulty.
Oh gosh, so I got
if you like a challenge, you should grab it.
I got through 18 levels and there's 120.
125.
125. Wow. Okay. Yeah, this will be.
But you
intense.
got more than halfway through the first world.
Yeah, and this would be really good for like, just put this on your kid's Switch and then hand it to them, and this will occupy them for a week or something, right? At least.
It'll definitely help enhance motor skills for sure.
Okay, yeah, it's approved by classes, by schools. Sell this to schools, maybe. It's it's educational or something. Okay, well,
NYU faculty member.
Yeah, endorsed.
Robert Yang this for school. Yeah,
endorsed by NYU.
Cool.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Diego and Wyatt, for joining us. Again, this game is Damaged in Transit. It is out on Steam and itch, and it just came out on Switch. There's the link to the Switch store. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna cut to credits now.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, thanks you.
Thanks for having us.
I was the director and host, Robert. News co-host was Naomi Clark. Graphics were by Winnie Song, and captioning is by a real live human, Mirabai Knight of Steno Night Cart Services. Please hire Mirabai for all your captioning needs, especially for captioning your Twitter. Okay, thanks everyone for joining us today. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and see ya all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.